You see them online, real estate entrepreneurs. But how are they doing it? And what are they doing different? We've got the answers. This is the Real Estate Block. Interviewing real estate entrepreneurs doing consistent real estate deals. If you want to be a real estate entrepreneur or you're already in the business, we've got on the pros that give the secrets and strategies to make it happen. This is the Real Estate Block, and this is your host, Aaron Gaunt.
All right, welcome to the Real Estate Blog podcast, where we bring on the guest to ask them the hard questions by taking a deep dive into how they built their real estate team, their marketing strategies, the systems and processes, and how they built a machine that spits out consistent real estate deals month after month. Where the value given during the show will help you find and create consistent real estate deals. Today, I'm a good friend, guest, Greg. What's up, my man?
Hey, man. Well, I'm excited to be here. This is, I always tell people I like being the guest more than the host most of the time. So I appreciate you having me come on as a guest.
There we go. Hey, Greg, tell us who you are, what you were doing prior to real estate, and why the heck did you get into this world of real estate?
Yeah, so my name is Greg Helbeck. I have a real estate business based out of the Northeast primarily. We do buy a little bit of stuff out in San Diego, but our main market is back on the East Coast in New York and Delaware. And before I got into real estate, I was 20 years old. Yeah, I was 20 years old. I was in the middle of college and I didn't know what I wanted to do with my life. And I knew I wanted to make money, right? And I wanted to do it in a unorthodox kind of way. So I went to a seminar like most people. And the seminar was talking about double closing houses. And I've heard about wholesaling and I've heard of it, read Rich Dad Poor Dad and read Think and Grow Rich, the typical kind of, entrepreneur, Kool-Aid. And I remember going to this seminar and they're talking about wholesaling. And I was like, oh my gosh, like this, I can totally do this. Like I didn't want to know. It seemed easy, obviously, or else they wouldn't be there talking about it. So I remember I looked back, I turned around with the two of my friends who went with me. And I said, I don't care what you guys decide to do. I'm signing up for this like $2,000 upsell. They said we could do 2 for 1. So maybe we can negotiate 3 for 1, but best case scenario, we do 2 for 1 and we make some money. My one friend said no. My other friend said yes. And now he's very successful, which is ironic. And the other guy is successful too, but he's just not a real estate guy. And we went to the seminar, the next level seminar, 2 weeks later in Yonkers, New York, right by New York City. And they went more into detail on like, how do you rehab? How do you wholesale? How do you find deals? How do you own rental properties? Like, you know what I mean? Like they just kind of gave you like the high level overview on real estate. And then they obviously tried to get you to buy some more coaching, which we didn't. We kind of maxed out at the $2,000 at the time. And we were motivated, 20 years old, 2015, in the middle of college. And I remember literally this is 100% ridiculous and 100% true. The first thing I did after that seminar, like that same day we got out, it was a Sunday when it ended. And I went back to my house that Sunday and I made a Craigslist ad. I was like, I want to buy your house in cash. Call me for an offer. I swear to God, the first lead we got was this dude with a fire damaged townhouse. It's funny. I own rentals now in that area, like in that,
oh, wow.
like right around there. And he was like, I got this burner property. I got to get rid of it. And like, I did not know what I was doing. I totally fumbled the ball there. That deal didn't work out. But my first ever lead, ever out of the tens of thousands of leads we've got now, was a motivated seller. Exactly what they talked about. Like that exact avatar of what a motivated seller is. And, ever since then, I obviously swung and missed a bunch of times. It took me 9 months to make $1. Made my first deal happen with like a referral fee. Like my buddy needed me to walk a property and he paid me a percentage of the deal. Nice. And then after that, I did a wholesale deal, which took another 2 months and really just kind of spun my wheels for a while. But I was super consistent and I did the same things. They probably were the wrong things at the time every single day. And eventually that brought me, money in this business, but it just did not take 2 days. It took a long time. And I remember putting out bandit signs being like, I know this will work eventually. It's not working now, but if I just keep doing this, this will get me, closer to where I want to get to. So that's my backstory in a nutshell, how I got into real estate.
Okay, dude. So I got to ask, what was the seminar and how'd you hear about it?
So it was, so Tarek and Christina were the faces of it, the flipper flop people on HGTV, but the seminar company was actually promoting it. The seminar company was the marketing company. And then they put Tarek and Christina on the face of it. So you think they would have been there, which they obviously weren't. And I didn't know that. Yeah, dude, this is a while ago.
They're just making money for their faces, man.
Yeah, exactly. They're licensing out their IP, I guess. And so it was this big seminar company. I think they were based out of Utah. Mm-hmm. And Honestly, the information in the actual event was pretty good. I mean,
Okay.
it's not like they were just telling you like stupid stuff. Like they were giving you like instructions and like I remember I was in that seminar room, Aaron, and I was the youngest probably guy there for sure. My other buddy was second in line to be the youngest. And everyone in there was like older, like much older than us. And I was just like thinking, I'm like, I don't want to be a real estate statistic. I don't want to be one of those people who goes to the seminars and like claims it doesn't work. Like, I'm going to find a way to make this work, And lo and behold, that ultimately became true. But I just feel like in the business, when you start, especially when you're young, the expectations that you have don't line up with the reality. And that's why I believe so many people fail. If they knew how difficult it'd be in the beginning, but how worth it would be,
Right.
and there'd be so many more people with success, right? But people think you're going to go make 3 phone calls and get a motivated seller to take a discount on their house. That's just not how it works, man.
Right. No, they always say that too, is that when your first deal comes easy, they usually don't last. But if your first deal comes hard, it's when you know you're going to last.
Isn't that ironic? Right. If that was that lead I told you about a minute ago, if that actually like made me like 30 grand, I would have been jaded. I would have been like, oh, this is easy. Oh,
right.
It,
Right. So you look back and you say, yeah, I'm glad it didn't work. And, you still were hustling and bustling. I mean, what, 20 years old? And at 20 years old, what made you so motivated to get into real estate? Because I'll be honest, when I was 20, I was not thinking about honestly making money. I was, I went to the service. I was gone.
Yeah, you're in the military. I mean, I was just like, I was at a point where I was playing hockey and that didn't work out. I wanted to play in the pros. That didn't end up panning out.
You do look like a hockey player, like somebody from Canada.
Hair, the cheesy facial hair. But like, I was in a situation where like I was living with my parents, going to community college. So on paper, I was a loser, right? So you'd think, but I was doing all the right activities. Like I was reading and I was like disciplined, within reason. And I had nothing else to lose. Like at that time, like I just wanted to be, I wanted money to be I did not want money to be a reason why I couldn't do something. Not saying I'm going to go out and buy a jet or a yacht or something stupid like that. But like, I just wanted to have money to be able to have options to do what I wanted. And I knew that this business was going to be able to provide that because I heard so much social proof of it working with other people. I listened to Sean Terry, Matt Terrio, like all these guys, like Joe McCall. Like it's funny, they're all like, well, I don't know Sean Terry, but the other 2 guys I know pretty well. Like all these podcasters, like they were talking about it working. And I'm like, well, if it's working for all these other people, it's got to work for me. But I mean, I really just knew that it was a path for me. And I always wanted to make money. I just didn't know how it was going to how I was actually going to do it. And then when I realized that, in wholesaling, you really don't need any money necessarily to buy the property. Like it was a believable thing for me. Like you need money to market, you need time. But you don't actually need the money to take the deal down. And at the time, I had no money. So it was like a match made in heaven.
Yeah. I mean, at 20 years old, how did you come up with that funds to even do the seminar?
I had savings. I would like work odd jobs and I was a lifeguard in high school and I'd mow lawns. You know what I mean? Like I was always pretty good with my money. I would just save stuff. But I didn't have like a truckload of cash. Like it was just like some money out of my savings account. But also, I didn't have any overhead. That's the other thing there where I say sometimes I got a little lucky where I had no wife, no kids, living with my parents. I had a $200 a month car payment. It was like a really good window to try to do this because I really had no responsibilities. Like I'd pay for food, you know what I mean? But I wasn't paying rent. I didn't have any rental mortgages or anything like that. So that window, even though I was young and that was a little bit of a disadvantage, it was also a huge opportunity because that was the time where I could go all in and I had nothing to lose. I had no assets or you know what I mean? It was just a totally different time in my life. It seems like yesterday, but it was actually going to come up on 10 years sooner rather than later,
That's awesome. And that goes into my next question. So you didn't get that first deal. You end up doing a deal, kind of referral. Then you probably kind of get into this trickle of somewhat deals. Did you consistently, did you keep going? You just told us right now, 10 years. Was there a pause that took it, or did you kind of just go right into it to build your business?
So what happened? It's interesting you saying that because I remember it was yesterday how it went from nothing to a business that actually makes money. So I was in New York, and that's still where we do a lot of our business. That's probably one of the harder markets in the country just because of the attorneys and all that crap, not really the competition level. Anyway, I was doing deals every few months in New York. I'd get a wholesale deal. I wouldn't have the earnest money, so I'd have a buddy of mine help me with it, and I would wholesale it for too little and make 5, 10, 15 grand. So I was making money, kind of surviving and staying afloat. but there wasn't like a monthly like revenue that I could expect to happen, So, and I was complaining that the New York market was so freaking hard. I'm like, these attorneys, they want these huge deposits. Like I can't just sign a contract in the house. And I was complaining about that. I started in the end of 15. This was like 16 and 17. This kind of like purgatory stage was going on. And then in 2018, I remember I had like an epiphany. I was complaining about the market, like in my area, and I was living there at the time. And I always wanted to move out of New York and go out to the West Coast and do this California lifestyle thing. So I was like, okay, I got two things going for me. If I'm chaining myself to this geographic area, I can never move because I have to go on appointments. And this New York market's pissing me off with these attorneys. So I was like, what if I tested this? Yeah, this is fine. What if I tested this in a different area? And if it's easier in a different area, I can just do these deals virtually. And if it's not, then, it's my problem. So I literally picked Dallas, Texas out of all places, like randomly picked Dallas because I knew there was a lot of people there. And, everyone seems to be making money in Texas. Started cold calling in Dallas, Texas in 2018 when it was not popular. No one was really doing it. No list stacker. Like there was no list stackers. I was doing my own list stacker on my own. I kind of figured out a way to do that.
Yeah, the spreadsheets.
Yeah, going to the spreadsheets and then taking it and going to like a vacant software, which wasn't like a stacker, and like finding these like crazy. I would find these like ultra motivated leads. Like I would find a tax delinquent list. I'll tell you what I did. I found the tax delinquent list that I would buy. I would take the list and I would flag all the vacant houses out of that entire list. So let's say that data set was 8,000. The 8,000 would turn into like 600. So now I'd have 8,000 main records, 600 vacant records. So now I had a little sub list of like 600 vacant tax delinquent properties. And I realized that the deals that I did in New York that were always the best were vacant tax delinquent properties. So I'm like, what if I just marketed to these people all day? So then we started, and there was nobody doing this. It was insane. It was like almost too easy because I was struggling for so long. And I was like, this is ridiculous. Started doing this in Dallas. And I remember the first deal we did, I think it was on Fernwood. I forget the address, but the freaking lady was like, yeah, I got this property. I don't want it. I don't even know how to sell it. Like it's vacant. And like, I think there's people in there. And like, anyway, long story short, did that deal. It was like 15 grand. And I was like, nice. Oh my God, I never saw the house, never like did anything. Then the next week, same thing, locked up a house. That was a fire damage property. That was a $30,000 deal that I split with someone 50-50.
Wow.
But I never saw the house. I never went there. So now I'm making money without having to physically be at properties. And then I started doing that like over and over and over. I had like a system where it's like I knew if I spent 4 hours a day calling and texting, that'd bring me like 1 or 2 leads a day. And the 1 or 2 leads a day would give me like 1 new offer every day to make. And if I made, whatever, 1 offer a day, you know what I mean? I had like a little funnel built out. And then that started producing deals consistently, like 3 or 4 deals a month where we were making, 10, 20, 30, $40,000 profits. I was splitting them, but I was not involved in the back end. Like I was just JVing with a guy and I had no involvement after I got the deal. So it was pretty simple. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then we started doing that a bunch. And then I had money at that point because I was saving all that money. And I started closing in cash on these properties. By the way, these are cheap. Like this is not like expensive stuff. We're buying
compared to New York. Yeah.
Yeah. Going in, buying them cash, putting them back on the market. You know what I mean? And then I started saving a lot of money up. And that's how I like grew the business, at least initially, to have like consistency. And then what ended up happening, and then I'll kind of like give you where we're at today, is that started to end because there was honestly only so many of these like ultra distressed properties in Dallas. And most of them were in my database or they were a lead or they didn't want to sell or whatever. And I knew that that strategy was eventually going to dry up and I was going to either have to go into another market and do this like Houston or San Antonio, or maybe try to go back into New York and see if that market is good again. Right. So I started with the New York route and I'm like, I'm going to start actually like spending money on marketing in New York. I have money to close now. Like I know what I'm doing for the most part. Like I understand what a deal is. And then that was in late 2019-ish. Like we started going back heavy into the Northeast. And from there, we've grown our business just by like the traditional like market, get leads, have a team kind of thing like that.
No, that's incredible. A lot of good sweat equity in there. Let me ask you this, Greg.
Dude. So much.
Let me ask you this. For somebody, I'm sure a lot of people hit you up to ask you for advice. I mean, what's the number one piece of advice that you would give for somebody to do a deal here and there to consistent real estate deals?
You have to consistently be either prospecting or marketing every single day. Because if you don't do that, you're not going to have the leads to then make the offers on to get the deals. That's where I screwed up in the beginning, as I was very whimsical. I would put out bandit signs consistently, but I wouldn't get a lot of calls because I didn't understand that marketing channel. I do deals from it, but it wasn't consistent. I would handwrite letters, get some calls, maybe do a deal. and then I'd have to restart the process. Like I had no like system of like, okay, I'm going to do this much time or spend this much money, and I'm going to expect to get a couple leads a day and then make a couple offers a day. Like I didn't track anything. So if you want to do consistent deals, you need to consistently get leads in the door every single day, no matter what, like clockwork, like done for you in spite of you. And then you got to focus on making offers. If you're a one-man show and you want to make money, the best thing you can do, the one brick that will build your business, is making offers, right? Because I've never bought a house I didn't make an offer on, ever. It's impossible. So once I understood that, and I knew that if I did a certain cause, I'd get a certain effect, that's when I started making like decent money in the real estate game. Because I was like, okay, I'm just going to put this time in at the time, and that time is going to yield me these deals. And then eventually I switched from that time to this money, and then it grew from there. But you got to be consistently bringing prospects inside your funnel every single day, or else you're not going to have a business.
100%. I mean, leads are, the blood
It's
of the
everything.
business.
Totally.
Let me ask you this, Greg. So kind of fast forward, what does your team look like now?
Yeah. So I have one full-time acquisitions person, a full-time lead manager, and then a full-time assistant who does like some transaction coordination stuff. She does some of our marketing stuff. So when a deal comes in, it goes to our lead manager, it gets processed, and it gets set up for our acquisitions person to negotiate, the contract. And then once we have a deal, like gets accepted, right, or it gets under contract, depending on the state, I get involved. I decide whether I'm going to flip it, whether I'm going to hold it, or whether I'm going to wholesale it. And then I'm the one who deals with all of the disposition. So I actually sell the properties to our buyers. Okay. I'll take them down if I need to take them down, or, if it's going to be a rental, it's the same thing. I'm just going to refinance afterwards. So I sit in the disposition seat, and I sit in like the, I guess, owner operator seat at this point.
Right. How do you pay your acquisition guy if, let's say, you take it down or anything like that?
So if I take it down, he gets a percentage of the net profit on the back end. He gets like 15% of the net profit. If I wholesale it, he gets 15% of the wholesale fee. And if I keep it as a rental, we just negotiate. I'm like, hey, like normally if I were to wholesale this, you'd probably make this. I'll just give this to you as like a fee on, like at the closing. Because like if he got the deal and like he bought, like I'm keeping it as a rental, he shouldn't suffer financially because I chose to keep it as a rental. So I just kind of look at it like, if I were to flip this or if I were to wholesale this, what would we have made? And that's his payment.
How long is each one of your, because I mean, you have a pretty lean team. How long has each member been with your team?
So Anna's been with me for since 2021. So almost 2 years.
Wow.
Brett's been with me since the end of 21. So he's been with me for over a year, and he was working for another real estate investor before me.
Incredible.
And then Lindsay just came on board as lead management, because we saw that the calls were going to Brett and he was getting bottlenecked, and I was coming in and like backfilling because we were getting so many leads. So I saw that was a pain point in our business. So I decided to bring someone on just to strictly deal with processing the leads. So he doesn't have to like spend his whole day like qualifying someone, and then he's got to make offers, you know what I mean? Then he's got to follow up. Like it gets really chaotic. You obviously know this. It can get crazy.
Yeah. No, it's incredible. So, I mean, as we already know, the normal turnover for an acquisition guy is 6 months, right? And that's not a good,
Yes.
I mean, let's just be honest, it's not good. But for you to have him for a year so far, what would you say that the number one thing for him to stay with you and to make you and himself money?
Yeah. So number one, that's a great question. And I definitely can speak about this because a lot of people have, had that challenge. And that was something I was aware of when I, thought about, or he kind of thought about this. It's a friend of mine from college and high school. So like I was a little bit of an advantage. So the thing with the acquisitions person is you got to figure out really what do they want to achieve, right? Do they want to be their own business owner? Do they want to work on your team? Or like where do they want to be at? And in his case, he wants to be an entrepreneur at this point. He wants to work in the business, like under our umbrella. And he doesn't want the responsibility of me shelling out hundreds of thousands of dollars a month to buy properties, dealing with the overhead that's insane, or dealing with, attorneys and like all of the bullshit that people don't understand. Like I'm the one at the front lines dealing with that, right? Dealing with some of the transaction management. So he knows and he sees all the BS that I deal with. And yeah, do I make a lot of money? For sure. But there's overhead. There's, a lot of other stuff that doesn't really get accounted for, right? So number one, you got to get clear on where they're at. Like, do they want to do their own thing? Do they want to work with you for 6 months and leave? Do they want to stay within your business? So that's thing number one. You got to get their idea of success for them. And then the second thing that I did with him is I got him clear on what his income goal was and how I could simply help him get from where he was when he started to his income goal, right? He's going to make, it's 2023 now. He made a little less than $100,000 this year. And I could just share that. Like it's all good. And that was basically what he wanted to achieve. And that's like a lot more than what he made the year before. So I basically showed him, if you do this work every day, right, we have a system that works, you should hit your income goal. And then throughout the year, as he saw the consistency in the deals, he became more motivated to get better at what he's doing, because he knew that when he brought a deal in, it was gonna work out. Most likely we were gonna make a lot of money on it. And then the fact that we can like close on it if we need to, like it saves some deals that we might not be able to wholesale. So really, I just got him clear on what he wanted. And then I showed him that our business, and I never say my business, our business can get him to his goals. And it can also get him to the next level. Like we're talking now about what does he want to achieve in 2023 and how do we set him up to where he can be successful if he does the work, right? And the consistency is really what he saw. And once he kind of saw the machine run, he knew that like, okay, if he just gets really good at buying houses, he's going to get all his goals achieved, you know?
What is your training for him look like? So when you first got him on, what was your intro? And then do you do continuous training?
Yeah. So once again, a little bit of an unfair scenario because he did work for another investor. So he understood the business. He kind of got his teeth cut with the other guy, which was good for me, I guess.
Right.
He wasn't like, oh my God, this seller's crazy. Like he knew people are nutballs, right? So he knew that off the bat. So that was good for me. So he knew sales. He understood like John Martinez and Todd Toback and all these guys who teach sales. Like he understood that. So the way that like I onboarded him, honestly, was like, here are the leads. Let's go. You know what you're doing. And, like, so he kind of like jumped right into the fire. Yeah. But like we do a weekly sales training with me and him. We'll role play. We go through the pipeline. Like we talk about scenarios. You know, we read books together. I share podcasts. He listens to podcasts. And then we have like a formal training once a week where we'll like spend time actually breaking down deals and role playing and like, you know, making sure we're taking the leads that we have and we're training on the leads that we have. Because I feel a lot of sales training is great, but a lot of it is like high level theory, which is great and it can work. But what we do is we take the deals that we're actually doing right now and we use the sales training to come up with an action plan to actually get that deal to the next step. So for example, let's say we're working a house and the seller's got, you know, some decision makers that haven't, you know, decided yet or whatever the case is. We'll role play that because that's a real deal. So we role play it and then he makes the call like 20 minutes later. He already kind of role played exactly what's most likely to happen. He'll call me afterwards and be like, dude, holy crap. We just role played this and this is exactly what happened. I'm like, well,
oh, that's awesome.
There you go. You know,
I'm sure that's super rewarding.
Yeah. Another thing too, I'll say is this. And like I said, I wouldn't say I'm like a leadership guru at all. I'm new to this. It's a work in progress, but I don't micromanage him like at all. Like he knows what he has to do and I expect certain results and he holds himself to a high standard. So I don't really need to pepper him because he's already going to make the calls if he's around. And if he's not around, he'll let me know. And like, I'll fill in or someone will fill in, but like, I don't micromanage him. I don't like, he tracks his scorecard every day, but like, I don't have to ask him. Like, he'll just do it. You know what I mean? Like, or like, he'll like get a deal and he'll call me and I'll be like, oh, that's awesome. Cool. Like, let's do it. You know, let's go into escrow. So like, when I give him a lot of autonomy, assuming the work is getting done, which it does get done, he feels like he almost has his own business under my business. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And like when he asks me things, like I never shoot things down right away. Like I have a really good friend who's got like an 8-figure business, like serious operator in real estate. And he never says no to his team. He says, yes, but when, or yes, but this is when that would happen. Or like he never shuts the door on people because he wants people to grow within his business. And he knows that he has a business that's so big at this point, people can obviously grow. So I never like shoot things down. Like I'm always like open-minded with him within reason, obviously. But at the same time, he's a reasonable guy. You know what I mean? So like, it's kind of like a two-way street. And we're always in communication. Like we're always on Slack or on the phone and we're staying on top of things. Like, can I share a story actually on this? Because this is I want to just use a really like legit deal on like how that what I'm saying like got him a monster deal, if you don't mind.
Absolutely. No. So, keep your monster deal stories to yourself.
Yeah.
No, absolutely.
Yeah. So, and this got him uncomfortable, and he'll be the first one to tell you this. So we got this lead in Delaware, and that's an area we operate in, and it was a smoking hot SEO seller, like wanted to sell, needed to sell, like they were selling, like there was no questions asked. And I'm like, listen, normally we buy over the phone, but I recommend you go to see this house in person because this is a good deal. And he's like, okay, sure. So he goes to the appointment. Seller's like, serious, but like wouldn't commit to a contract, you know, kind of like typical seller skirting around the truth.
Yep.
And he calls me back at the appointment. He's like, hey, I didn't get the contract. This is what's going on. So I'm listening to him and I'm asking, some questions. And then I'm like, okay, this is what you should do. Call him back and try the negotiation over the phone. He calls him back, tries to negotiate over the phone. They kind of stonewall him. And he's like telling me, he's like, yeah, like they have other people coming and like this, that, and the other. And I'm just thinking, I'm like, man, I think if he goes back to that house, he's going to get the contract because I know how it will work. So I said, Brett, you're not going to like this, but this will work most likely. I said, listen, go back to the house, look for an excuse to get back inside. Say, hey, Pete, I didn't see the attic. Hey, Pete, I forgot to take a picture of the oil tank. Like, look for a reason to get back into the house.
There you go.
Because it was down the road. It was literally down the street from him. Like, I literally know where this house was, right, in relation to where he lived. And I'm like, go back to the house. It's going to be super awkward. On your way out the door, say, Pete, I know we're supposed to speak Thursday, but I'm already here right now. Why don't we talk about the contract? Does that, leaves the house, lets himself back in, says, hey, Pete, why don't we sit down and talk about this deal? He ends up pulling out all the objections on the spot, gets the wife involved. Wife now sits down with him. They're on the couch for like 30 minutes in like this tense negotiation. I'm all the way out here in California. And they're like calling me with like logistical questions over the contract. Anyway, he gets the seller to sign the contract. We end up wholesaling it for like 35 grand, which in Delaware is a lot of money.
Yeah, awesome.
And, so I gave him specific instructions that was uncomfortable because in theory, he probably didn't want to go back there. I mean, I don't like
no, absolutely.
Sure but that instruction he took with a lot of value because he knows I have his best interest at heart. And I'm not just going to send him out to go waste his time. But based on what he was telling me, I'm like, if you want to get this deal and make a big rip on it, this is what you should do in order to get the result. And he took it and he saw the result and he got like a monster commission check. And, he was like, oh man, that was awesome. I'm like, well, you did the work, you took my instructions, you did the work and it worked out for both of us,
That's incredible, man. Even as I would say action takers like ourselves, it's always uncomfortable, but I mean, that's how you get rewarded is by getting uncomfortable.
Totally, man. And like, based on what he was telling me is why I gave him that plan of action. Because if he said like the seller's not making a decision until next Thursday or something, or 2 weeks from now, I'd be like, yeah, go back in a week. But based on what he was saying, I knew if he just went that one extra step, as Ed Milet would say, did that one more rep, that was going to get him success. Because I knew based on that certain scenario, the prescription was going to probably work. Like, and that's the thing with sales. I see like, people think you just do this, and then they're going to get a contract. It's like, no, you got to take the scenario you're dealing with and then like reverse engineer like the certain sales process to go around your specific deal. You know what I mean? Because there's a certain way you got to do things with 100%. One seller versus a different seller. You know what I mean?
110%. You definitely got to have that emotional intelligence and be able to read the other individual.
Totally,
let me ask you this, Greg. So you have this individual that's just crushing it on sales. What kind of marketing are you doing to feed them leads?
Love it. I could talk about this for 4 hours. First and foremost, I'll start with this: direct mail. A lot of people don't like it. I don't know why. It works so freaking well. We get some of the juiciest deals from mail. It's expensive. It can be demoralizing, but if you do it consistently, it is profitable, like 4 to 5x return on ad spend or ROAS consistently, because direct mail gets better over time because it just compounds. So we're doing a ton of direct mail. The second, I mean, I almost like this channel better than mail, but I can't say that's true yet, is online leads. And I'll just kind of like branch off and say Google pay-per-click, right? Straight up like buying keywords on Google. Internet SEO. So instead of buying the keywords, having your website organically rank so people would opt into your site. And then the third channel, it's a company called Property Leads. They actually do SEO all over the country. And then they sell the leads to individuals. So the property leads, SEO leads are like the 3 internet channels that are just cranking. We do another channel called Need to Sell My House Fast. It's a similar kind of thing where you buy the lead. So we get a fair amount of those leads. So we got mail, internet, and then the third one that we do a lot of is just like text marketing, like SMS. Like we're taking the list we're mailing and my assistant's texting those prospects and we're getting deals from that consistently. I wouldn't say you should rely on texting, because it changes a lot and like there's new laws and, sometimes a list doesn't work that well, but it's a great supplemental marketing channel if you're already doing mail because you already have the people. You might as well text them. Maybe they don't respond to the mail, but they respond to your text. And then we're also getting deals from like wholesalers and other investors come to me and they have a deal they want a JV or whatever. So like, I guess that's like the referral arm. My attorney might bring me a lead or something like that. But that's how we're finding deals for the most part. I'm trying to think right now. We're not doing cold calling right now. We're not doing TV. We're not doing radio. Yeah, it's just pretty much mail and internet.
Well, that's incredible. Really focusing on those inbound leads. Break
Oh,
down your direct mail process. I mean, what list are you using? What mail house are you using? What does your postcard look like? And how many times are you sending a piece of mail to individuals?
You asked the right guy this question, man. I've been doing this for a long time, and like I've just screwed up so much with mail, and like I've just learned the hard way. So the way that I'll talk about direct mail, like I hope people can like listen to this and like literally go execute it, because like this will work. You got to look at the campaign on like a 6 to 9 month window, or else you're done, right? If you look at direct mail on a 1 to 2 month like window, just save your money and buy leads from Need to Sell My House Fast or something, because like it's not going to work right away. So if you start with a high level direct mail campaign, 6 to 9 month window minimum, hopefully a year. Okay. In your campaign, right? That's like the big umbrella, and you have your timeline. There's certain cycles you're going to hit. So like we have cycle number 1, which is the first time we hit the prospect. We take a couple weeks off, then we'll hit cycle number 2, couple weeks off, cycle number 3, couple weeks off, cycle number 4, couple weeks off, cycle number 5. Each cycle is a different touch. Okay. And each cycle is broken up into a weekly batch, right? Because if you just send 10,000 postcards at once, your phone's going to light up for like a week, and then it's going to go dry until you hit the next cycle. So each cycle we break into 4 weekly drops, right? So like cycle 1 will be week 1, week 2, week 3, week 4. We'll take week 5 off. And then cycle 2 will be week 6, week 7, week 8, week 9. Take week 10 off. Cycle 3, you know what I'm saying? So we have a consistent stream of leads coming in, right? So that's like how I run the campaigns from like a high level overview with like the cycles and the batches. And then inside of each cycle, we have our mailing lists, right? Which would be like, we love the absentee owner list. We love the tax delinquent list. We love the probate list. We love the pre-probate list. We love the lien on my house list, because that could be for anything. We're mailing unknown equity. Yeah, unknown equity is we're mailing those people. But the funny thing about all of these lists, Aaron, is that you never know what list is actually going to work, because direct mail is all about timing, right? So a guy on the absentee owner list could call you and tell you to F off, but then the guy on the divorce list or whatever could be like, oh my God, I'm getting divorced. I got to sell right now. And then the next time you do that cycle, it could be the complete opposite. The divorce guy's pissed at you, but then the guy who's got an absentee owner, his tenant didn't pay rent. Now he's selling you the house at a discount. So you want to understand that direct mail is really about timing, right? And the more you send out, the higher you're increasing the chances of that timing working out for that seller wanting to sell to you. The key with mail that I've learned is you want to try to mail people who have owned their property for at least 10 years at bare minimum, if not longer, because that is an indication that there's probably deferred maintenance. There's probably equity, assuming they didn't refi. And, you know, generally, like if I just bought a house today, I'm not going to want to sell that in the next month, most likely. Sir, have I done deals that way? Sure. But like, that's not normal. So you want to make sure you're mailing people who have owned the property for at least 10 years. We actually do 15 or 20 in our company, because we can pull that data, and we know when they call, there's generally a problem, right? So that's like high level direct mail. The tracking is where I see a lot of people get thrown off hard. So if someone's going to invest all that money in direct mail, you got to have a simple, easy way to track it. And the way that I track my mail, people are like surprised how simple it is. It's very straightforward, but it's effective. I have 2 columns on a spreadsheet. I have the forecast, and then I have the result, right? So I have, okay, I'm going to spend 10 grand on this cycle. I'm going to send, 20,000 postcards out. I'm thinking I'm going to get, what would that be? 0.5% on that. Let's say 100 calls. Out of those 100 calls, I think I'm going to get probably 40 leads. Out of those 40 leads, we should get 1 or 2 contracts. Out of those 1 or 2 contracts, we should get whatever in revenue. So that's like my forecast. Then we run a campaign, and then the results come in. And then I can line up the results from that campaign right next to my forecast, and I can see the problem. Oh, crap, we got way less leads than we thought. Ooh, why was the response rate low? So when you have these metrics in place, you can tweak your campaign, and you can figure out what to do the next cycle. So hopefully you get a better response, or, a better conversion rate, or whatever the case is. So like, you got to track this stuff, because when you just spend a bunch of money on marketing and it doesn't work and you don't have it tracked, you don't know why, and then you stop.
Right. Well, let me ask you this: where are you pulling your list, and how many pieces are you sending out? And I'm asking you 3 questions. And what mail house are you using right now?
So I use 2 mail houses. The first one is Open Letter Marketing, and the second one is Yellow Letters HQ in San Diego. So both of those mail houses are phenomenal. You can do it all online, upload everything to a portal, super easy. So that's the mail house. In terms of the what'd you ask, the mail piece? What was the question?
Yeah, the postcard. Yeah. What does that
So
look like?
the postcard is pretty funny. It's usually one of the postcards on the website that's already there. Like people are
Okay.
like, I gotta use a crazy postcard. It's like mine is
Yep.
like
Yep.
I pick one on the website, usually one that like looks pretty cool to me. And then like for cycle one, I'll use that postcard. And then in my campaign, I'll like take a screenshot of it. So I'll see which one like I sent out. So usually if you go to like Open Letter Marketing or Yellow Letter HQ, you can see like, the cash offer postcard or the seller benefits postcard or the sunsets and rainbows postcard. You can just like pick one. And the reason they're on those mail houses is because they work, or else they wouldn't have them on there because
Right.
no one would be ordering them. So I keep the postcard relatively simple. And then in terms of the volume of people in my market, at least in the Northeast, it's difficult, competitive. We're sending a minimum of like 15 to 20,000 postcards per cycle because like that's per cycle. We're doing, 6, 7,
So that's
8
like,
cycles.
that's like a month, right? So that's like
Yeah,
15, 20 a month. Okay.
15, 20,000 a month. Yeah. If we're doing niche lists, we'll drop that, but we'll probably send letters in that case. Like we just did a niche campaign of like, I think 2,500, but because we knew that was a low count, we sent letters instead of postcards because we know the letters was probably going to get them to call versus the postcard, right? Because the response rate's a little higher with letters. But I would say if you're doing a broad postcard campaign, you want to send at least 15,000, at least, if not like 20,000, because that's going to get you the calls, which will get you the leads, which will get you the deals. Because if you send out like 3,000 postcards, I mean, at least in San Diego, you're probably going to get 1 call, 2 calls, so, you might be wasting your time.
So this is probably my last question on the mail, but this is something
Sure.
I know a lot of people have been discussing, such as when a prospect calls from that mail piece, where is it going? Is it going to your acquisition? Is it going to a voicemail? Is it going to a company? How are you capturing those leads?
So what I'm going to say might shock you. We're sending everything to voicemail for a reason.
Oh yeah, that does shock me.
And I'm not saying this is the right way to
I think we talked
Yeah.
about that too, really to eliminate all the crap, right?
Yeah, so you're going to get a lot of angry people calling you. That's just a fact with me,
Yep.
right? And I've noticed that
It could drive you crazy.
if my team's spending their whole day taking live calls from angry people, they're going to just get demoralized. So what we do is we drive everyone to a voicemail, and the voicemail is crystal clear on what we do. You've called, Greg or whoever on the postcard. If you're selling a property, please leave your name, the address, and the best number to call you, and we will get back to you immediately. And we mean that because we'll call them back literally like 10 seconds later if someone's on the phone, right? So when we call them back and they leave a voicemail, I have like a bunch of these like in my Dropbox, like a good direct mail lead versus a bad direct mail lead. Like a good direct mail lead is like Greg Helbeck, 22 Spruce Peak Road, Middletown, New York, 10940, best number, blah, blah, and they're compliant, right? The people who are pissed are like, I got your postcard. What's your offer? Ah! And then like, listen, we might do a deal with them. Maybe they're angry. We got to kind of, calm them down a little bit. But the person who complies, usually when you call them back, oh, I got your postcard. My tenant hasn't paid rent. Oh my God, I'm going to go crazy, right? So it kind of segments the people. And then obviously not everyone leaves a voicemail. So we'll obviously call back all the missed calls, all the people who, are like abandoned calls. They call them in call rail. We call everyone back, but we just use that voicemail system to kind of filter out a lot of the junk because it can get crazy. We can get, 10, 15 calls a day sometimes. And like, a lot of those calls are garbage, right? And then the ones that are good, we identify and we treat those leads accordingly,
Oh, 100%. Those, I do try. We send a little direct mail out right now, and I am answering live. I mean, gosh, that would be I'd rather prefer just sending a voicemail because, like you said, those people that really call from those postcards and they just want to curse you out and they want to just demoralize you, as you said. Because to be honest, as a man, and I'm sure you can understand as well, for somebody to call you and talk to you like that is, it's not
sucks.
cool.
Terrible.
And I'm a pretty big man, and I feel like if you're in front of me, I'd punch you out.
Right?
And go on.
No, you go. I love this stuff, dude. I could talk about this for hours.
You're right. It just, you could be all motivated when you first start this business, but as it goes on, you keep getting those calls that it just really just ruins your day, and so I like that.
What it will do is it builds a bad belief if you don't catch it. And the belief is nobody's selling their house at a discount. Nobody's motivated. Nobody wants to deal with me. And when you keep instilling that bad belief into your brain, you'll start to sabotage yourself when you get a good lead, right? So the reason we do the voicemail thing is mainly like save our team some time. Everyone still gets called back, but like if we get an angry seller, like if someone calls on the spot, like let's say an attorney calls me right now, hey Greg, you're getting hosed right now. Your tenant's an idiot. Like I'm gonna be like, oh, what the hell? But if I hear a voicemail like, hi, this is attorney Rick Jones from Rick Jones Law Firm. We are calling about this lawsuit with your rental property. At least I can hear the voicemail, like take a little mental, like kind of Zen mode and then call them back with a plan. But if I'm just reacting all day, like my willpower is going to go from here to here, and then I'm going to start making bad decisions,
Well, and think about the person who's probably answering it and be your sales guys, right? And you want to make sure their morale stays high. Now, if it wasn't for voicemail, I might also consider like one of those companies that do answer live. Well, I think there's car portals or whatever. How did that turn out?
So I've used a few of them. I've found that they help, but they don't add a lot of value to the process because they're basically glorified order takers. Right. And then when the sales guy was calling them back, it was just like the same kind of thing. And it didn't really add a lot of value in the process, So I just figured like, let's just send this to voicemail for now because they weren't really adding. They were just like taking notes down, which we already basically had in the voicemail. So I just kind of cut them because I didn't see it add a ton of value in our process. It could be valuable for somebody else. But the thing that I've realized with the direct mail leads is not a lot of them are going to sell right now. Sure, you're going to have some that are going to sell right now, but the majority of them are going to sell in a couple months. So whether you call them back right now or you call them back in 15 minutes, it's probably not going to matter in the grand scheme of things. Because I used to run around like a maniac here. I used to be, I got to call everyone back right now. I'm going to miss a deal. But most deals are like, we don't have a lot of one-call closes in the sense where like seller calls in, hi, oh, you want to sell a house? Okay, sign the contract. Like that doesn't happen very often, right? Like it's like 2, 3, 4 phone calls. So I'm just like, well, let's send them the voicemail. Let's really see if we're a fit. They're probably going to have to talk to someone about it because they are selling a house. And I just figured like the way I look at mail from a high level, as long as our system is producing the 4 to 5x return on ad spend, I'm cool because I can keep spending the money, it's still profitable. If our return on ad spend started to go down the shitter, then I'd be like, okay, well, maybe we got to start answering live now, or maybe we got to do this, or maybe we got to do that. But based on the results we're currently getting with our system, it's still working the way we want it to work. So we're not going to really change it unless we need to,
There you go. Greg, let me ask you this. At this moment, what is your number one struggle in your business?
I think it's getting sometimes too involved when I don't need to, right? Like I don't really micromanage my team, but sometimes I want to. I'm like, oh, hey guys, you need help? You need help with anything? Like, you know what I mean? Or like, so that's number one. Number two, let's say someone is like it's like vacation mode or something. And it's like the weekend, like, and I see a lead come in and my guy is snowboarding and that's totally cool. Like, I'm not going to have him take calls snowboarding. Like I'm going to call that person back. Right. And I'm kind of like, oh, fuck, I got to call a seller back, But like, so that's a little bit of a sore spot in our business right now, I would say. And then just like, I think being able to like hoping I'm doing a good job as a leader. Like obviously like I can't really answer that. Like my team has to answer that, but like hoping that they know that I really, number one, have their best interest at heart and I really care and just having them know that that's true. 100%. Because sometimes I'm pretty aggressive and I'm like a high energy kind of guy. And I just hope I don't come off like a savage, in a bad way. Like a good savage is fine, but a bad savage is not good, So I think sometimes I tend to want to overmanage sometimes when I don't really need to. So I think anytime I can step back and just let the process work itself out, I have a better headspace and I can make better decisions as a business owner. But like another thing, like another struggle, I'm glad you asked that question, was we had a sore spot in our business where like, Brett was on the phone with 3 sellers and a new lead would come in and like, I'm not going to let an SEO lead sit there. So then I was jumping back in and calling that lead back because he was making 3 offers, So then we had to hire a manager to do that thing full time now because that was a pain point in our business where we're spending all this money on marketing. And if I have to keep calling these people back, like it's just not going to work, So because he only has so much time in a day. Like if I'm on the phone with a seller negotiating for an hour, I can't take that call. Let me call you back. I got to process this lead that might not be motivated. So being able to like identify in your business what the sore spot is and then solving for that one sore spot at a time has been, at least in our business, like really helpful versus trying to fix like 3 things at once,
No, thanks for sharing that. With your lead manager, are they virtual or are they like here in the States?
Well, they're in the States, but they work from home.
Oh, nice. What's that?
They're in North Carolina. They're in the
North
South.
Carolina. Gotcha.
Yeah.
So, okay. So how did you find that person, and how's that system looking like? Are they just making calls through the CRM all day, answering calls? What does that look like?
Yeah. So it's funny. My friend is a big flipper, and he's shifting his business to more like referrals and stuff like that, like referral based marketing, and like that's where he wanted to shift it because that's where a lot of his deals were coming from. So he was telling me, he was like, I might have to let my lead manager go. I'm like, oh, why? He's like, oh, because we're just getting most of our deals from referrals, and like it just comes to us. And I was like, interesting. Why don't you come work with me? And he's like, yeah, that's great. So I got on a call with her and I was like, hey, this is exactly what our pain points are. Would you want to, do this? Because she's doing the same thing, right? Just for a different company. And she's like, yeah, that'd be great. So we had a couple calls and I kind of set expectations like, the main activity is calling leads back like from 8 to 8, right? On like a stipend kind of payment. Cause like you never know when the leads are coming in. So that's like activity number 1 is calling and processing new leads. And then activity number 2 is following up with those leads that are in the database and like, following up with people and, making sure that the lead you spoke to has an appointment set, just being able to kind of like quarterback those leads because like, these leads get crazy. Like your CRM just blows up and you got, 10 to-do list task items and you're like, oh my God, who's going to get all this done? So
right.
Anytime I have a team member, I look at like their activities in terms of priority when it comes to urgency and importance. Like I just got off a call with Brett before we did this pod. And I was like, hey, like I gave him an update because he was driving back from Delaware. I'm like, this is a priority. This is like a B priority. And this is like a C priority. Like if you call back a lead, that's going to be a deal most likely. You don't need to worry about calling Bob back till like 6:30 p.m. because he's not even taking the discount on his house. So I always like to prioritize leads with my team because not all leads are,
100%. All right, Greg, let me ask you this. We all felt that market change with the interest rates and everything like that. How are you going to get through this and come out even better and stronger on the other side?
Great question, man. There's a few things. So the first thing is that you got to understand, I don't know what market people are in watching this. Maybe they're in Cal, maybe they're in the Northeast, Midwest. Every market's going to be a little different. Like in our area, Aaron, Southern California is a high appreciating, but then it's a high, can get hit pretty hard, in a short period of time. So like in California, where we've done some business, I'm looking at ARVs now and I'm taking 15% off, right? And I'm not even really looking at sold comps anymore. I'm looking at actives and pendings on the MLS. Like I'm doing a flip right now in Spring Valley. My comps are the actives and the pendings. They're not the solds, because the solds, who knows what that will sell for in 3 months, right? So I'm looking at actives and pendings, mainly actives, because actives, I want to see a property go on the market and then get an offer pretty quickly. So I'm looking at actives. I look at days on market a lot. And then when it comes, so that's for flipping and whatnot. I just look at actives and pendings. On wholesaling, a lot of, listen, when this first happened, I was super spooked. I'll be honest with you. I was like, oh my God, it is going to be a lot harder to wholesale right now. And it is, and it was, and it still will be. But what I'm doing now is I'm looking like, at least in like the Delaware area, New York area, those properties are generally under 500 grand. Most of them are, at least. And I've found that properties under 500 grand will still sell fast if they're priced right. Right. So a lot of buyers were like buying off me way overpriced because, I could do that as a wholesaler and they were letting the market bail them out. But now I need to actually have a wholesale deal that makes sense for the buyer, because if it doesn't make sense, they're probably not going to buy it. Yeah, we'll get a unicorn here and there, but we're actually negotiating with sellers now way deeper than we were, because we know it might be easy to get this deal from the seller now, but if we can't sell it and make the money, then who cares if we got the contract? So we're negotiating deeper with sellers, and we know if we're under the 500K median price point in our area, and it's priced right, and like the wholesale deal can actually let the investor make money, we're still going to sell that property with not much issues, right? So, like if I look at a deal, even though I'm going to wholesale it, I look at the value, not the ARV. I look at the as-is value, then I look at the repairs, right, and then I'll figure the ARV out by using those two numbers. But then I'll say, if I were to like offer this property out for 200, and a guy buys it for me for if a guy buys it for me for 200, he puts 75 in hard cost, and then he has 50 in soft cost. He's in the thing for what, 275, 325. If he can resell that thing for 400, he's going to make 75 grand. He can make money, right? So I kind of look at the deal a little bit more in depth now, because like we've tried to put like wholesale deals out when the market first shifted, like the way we used to, and buyers were just eating us up, So now we actually got to provide a good deal for them, which is fine,
100%. I talking to through this podcast, talking to several individuals, it looks like it took people about 2 months to kind of catch up, and I think even with sellers too. And then December, everybody started bouncing back and figure out where we needed to be at.
100%. Because the market still moves. Like the market still like transacts pretty well. Like it's still like technically a seller's market. You know, if you look at inventory and stuff like that, like I just bought a deal off a wholesaler out of Fresno out here in San Diego. And, you know, the numbers made sense. I'm like, dude, this deal works. Like even in the down market or whatever you want to call it, like this thing was still in a great neighborhood, you know, good zip code, you know what I mean? So I'm like, it might take a little longer to sell or whatever, but you just got to be able to be a little bit more conservative with your numbers and like, don't force deals with sellers just to get contracts. Like it's great to get a contract. Yay. But if you can't sell it, what good is that effort? You know?
Exact 100%. Let me ask you this, Greg, what have you listened to or read that just completely inspired you that you would want to share with somebody?
Yeah. So there's a book called The Compound Effect by Darren Hardy, and it talks about consistency and habits and momentum, you know, and associations. He takes like the 5 pillars of success and like puts them into this nice little easy to read book. I remember reading that book when I got started. It really helped me with my consistency, and then the consistency leads to the habit, and then the habit gives you momentum, and then momentum, you know, gives you good results. And when you get good results, you start hanging out with better people. So that book is like a blueprint on success. So that's The Compound Effect by Darren Hardy. The One Thing by Gary Keller is a great book on like personal focus and productivity and concentration. There's another book I like called Principles. Ray Dalio wrote the book. He's a big hedge fund guy, and he talks about his system of personal success and like learning how to reflect on pain to make progress. I'm trying to think. So Jim Rohn, you know, I mean, he's an OG. Tony Robbins, all their audiobooks they put out there, I've consumed for the most part. Brian Tracy, local San Diego guy, I've, you know, listened to his stuff a lot. So I just like being able to take a little bit from every single piece of material I consume to like kind of develop my own like format on, you know, success.
100%. And I love that compound effect as well. And we're in a business right now where the next day it could change. And I say that because I was having Mondays, we have our team meeting. And that's where I like to kind of hype people up as well. Like, for example, if we have a bad week, or if a bunch of deals have sold and we only have a couple on the board, I always like to remind people, it doesn't take too long to fill that board back up full of deals. Or the next day when somebody, you make that one call and boom, you got a 6-figure deal. It's just,
it's crazy how it can change. You have a low week,
it could change overnight.
That one lead makes you that 60 grand and you're like, bam, that momentum's back, put that right back into marketing, get another lead, get another deal. And it's amazing how this business just compounds over time.
Exactly. And it just all comes down to showing up. If you don't show up nothing's going to happen.
I love it. I always say on my Instagram, just punch it out, baby. Just punch it out. Do the work, put the freaking reps in, make the offers, make the calls, do the fitness stuff if you're into fitness, read the books, and do that consistently, and you'll like the results.
Absolutely. Greg, let me ask you this. Where can we find you on social media? Where can we find you to reach out to you, DM you, bug you for advice?
Yeah, so go to my Instagram, Grego_37, and shoot me a follow. We put out a ton of content on there. Like every day we're posting on that thing. I'm posting on my stories. So that's definitely the best way to check me out.
There you go. Greg also has his own podcast. What's your podcast called?
The Real Estate Investing Fast Track. You can check that out on wherever podcasts are.
There you go. I was just on it recently. Go check that episode out. All right. Well, hey, again, we'll see you next time here at the Real Estate Block Podcast.